The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Subconscious Selling Domination System. If you're an already successful sales leader, salesperson, or sales team leader, and you're already at the top 10 to 20% of your market, but somehow you've hit a plateau, the old techniques are just barely moving the needle, and you're ready to bust through, dominate your market, and even crush your competition, go to sellwithsuggestion.com. Grab your instant trust quick start training and your subconscious sales conversion vault, which are all part of the subconscious selling domination system. Just go to sellwithsuggestion.com. That's sellwithsuggestion.com.
All right, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. This is the show that disconnects the dots. You know the spiel, ladies and gentlemen. Disconnects the dots, colors outside the lines, and thinks everything outside the box. And I'm really genuinely happy and fascinated and intrigued by today's guest on, because he's talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is human performance and enhancing it. So let me introduce Mitch Sapoff. Is that right? Sapoff?
Sapoff. That is correct, Paul. You got it.
This is a Russian name, correct?
Well, so my parents are actually from the former Soviet Union.
Yeah.
They're from Ukraine, and the original last name was actually Sapozhnikov, but when they came to the U.S., they wanted to Americanize it. They wanted
Of course. Of course. My parents' original name was Rosenberg. By the way, говори по-русски.
Of course, конечно, говорю по-русски.
Da ambition, mein Herr. All right, let's get into it. So I told you it's unconventional, Mitch. Mitch is the founder of Rev Signals, where he helps sales teams uncover the hidden behavioral patterns that separate top performers from the rest of the sales force. Let's dive right in. Then we'll get to the rest of your bio if I feel like it. What are some of those top behaviors that separate the cream that rises to the top from the rest? What are some of those behaviors?
Yeah, so the three overarching categories of these behaviors are presence, thinking, and judgment. Okay, so if you'd like, I can expand a little bit on.
Please, positively. I demand it.
Yes. So presence is not anything that you could fake. Presence is something that you build over time. It takes a combination of getting your sun, getting your steps in, working out at the gym, meditating, doing breath work, journaling, like basically a lot of the personal development things that people preach, like those definitely help. But more importantly than that, it's sitting with yourself and getting clear on what your underlying fears are, what some limiting beliefs are that aren't serving you anymore, right? And instead of saying, fuck that, actually looking and confronting that and then retraining your brain and reparenting yourself in a way that can eliminate that, right? This way you walk, you talk, you show up with a commanding presence, not out of being pompous and taking over the room, but because you're genuine, because you're living in truth, because you're aligned with who you are and the job that you're here to do, which is serve the prospect that you're on the sales call with.
I love this. This is transformational, not just technique. This is transformational, not just. And where does the role of emotional regulation come in on this? Because so many people in this world, male, female, professionals, unprofessionals, you name it, are emotionally unregulated or dysregulated. Where does that come into?
It's very important here. So, obviously the toughest part of a sales call for most people is when it's time to have a conversation with the prospect about like why they're not trying to move forward on this right away, right? Like the second that a prospect says, let me think about it, or like, hey, it's too much money, or let me talk to my spouse, right? Like that's when the most nerve-wracking part comes in for most salespeople, because they're kind of like afraid of getting fully rejected, right? So they don't do what I call, and this is more of like a millennial and Gen Z term, a full send. And when I say a full send.
A full what?
A full send.
Send.
S-E-N-D.
I got to write that down.
A full send.
Okay.
And when I say full send, I'm talking about really, really committing to either making or breaking the sale, and not that awkward in the middle that's like the maybe, the let's follow up. Because how many people actually come back and buy when there's no clear cut next steps at the end of a sales call, when there's no clear cut conditions surfaced for making a decision? So most salespeople, most business people that are taking sales call avoid the confrontation because they're not willing to face the rejection because they have a fear. Does that make sense, Paul?
Absolutely. It's what I used to teach. I still have a side gig
Nice.
teaching men to pick up women and get laid. And this is one of the things I say, thumbs up. You don't need any help, playa. One player can see another.
Here we
Uh,
go.
yeah, there you go. But I teach men, look, be direct with your intent. Say, I thought about it and I'd like you to spend some time with me. If you're not with someone who's with you in the way you truly want them to be, let's explore how much we could really enjoy each other.
Sounds good.
Direct, absolutely direct. And when they say something like, I have a boyfriend, you have a response for that. You don't get rattled. And I love the parallels between sales and dating. So what are some of these limiting beliefs?
Yeah, well, a limiting belief is that, well, like oftentimes the salespeople don't even know that they're limiting beliefs, right? And here's
Of
what I
course.
mean by that, right? They might still have their nervous system or their inner child trained to think that if they piss the prospect off, then the prospect will climb across the computer screen and punch them in the face. That's not how it works. The worst thing that they could do, like the absolute worst, is just hang up the call. And right, other limiting beliefs that certain salespeople or business people might have that they don't even realize they have is that sales is sleazy and sales is slimy, and that you have to like convince people something or persuade them of something. That's not what sales is. Sales is about serving them. Sales is about understanding what is going on in their life and their business, etc., that is stopping them from hitting their goals, and genuinely making a decision yourself as the one on the sales call on whether or not your offer, your service, your solution can actually solve their problems, explaining it to them as to how it could do it, and helping them get out of their own way so that they could actually make a decision on it. That's what sales is.
I would differ on some of it. For the most part, I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say yes. So, all right, we talked about limiting beliefs. We talked about reparenting, which I don't want to get into. So, if people have these limiting beliefs, is it your job? Are you the one who offers that service? Or do you teach them how to get into a state of mind where they can evaluate it for themselves or both or neither? What is your methodology here?
Yes. So I'm not a therapist and I'm no longer a sales manager. Okay. Right. But I'm somewhere in between. Right. So I can give them the tools, I can give them the mindsets, I could give them the resources for them to go on that journey by themselves. I could even recommend certain therapists and coaches that specifically focus on mindset and personal development. Right. So I could get them started. Right. But I can't solve their problem for them, but I could
Of
shed
course
light.
not.
But it starts with that awareness, Paul, right? So it's like once you have the awareness, you'll actually start noticing it yourself. Right? It's like, wow, fuck, I am scared of selling. What? Whoa, what? Why am I scared? Right? And then kind of going on that journey is really interesting, right? And then getting clear on like who you even are as a person, and getting clear on identity, right? And what you bring to the table, and understanding your value. Dude, I could go on and on about this, but you get the basic gist.
I do. And now I want to sort of back up and
Yeah.
look at your process, how you came up with all this. What
Yeah.
because this is not the conventional. I'm going to talk this person into something. I have my canned responses. This is very different.
Yeah.
How did you come up with this? Did you have a mentor who influenced you, or did you just stumble through it and you needed because your back was against the wall and you thought,
Yeah.
I need to do something fucking different? How did you come up with this? What was your process?
Yeah.
And this is thinking outside the box. So two questions. What was your process? Who gave you the message that it was okay for you to think outside the box?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna write both of those questions down so that I don't forget them. Process, message, it's okay to think outside the box. All
Yeah.
right, let's talk about process. So when I was around, let's call it 20, 21 years old, um, I was trying to figure out who I wanted to be when I grew up, right? Not just professionally, but also personally, right? Because funny enough, I was kind of struggling with women at the time, right?
Ah, liar.
No, listen, man, there was a phase. There was a phase. So I discovered like dating content and pickup content, right?
You probably read about my alter ego, Ross Jeffries,
Why does that ring such a bell?
because you read the game, didn't you?
Oh, wow.
I was Neil's original teacher. Go ahead with your
Wow, Paul, that's interesting. That's
yeah, yeah. Go
okay.
ahead. You studied my stuff. Go ahead.
So interesting, man. It's been a while since I've touched those books and I've touched those videos, but I get back then, man, I got really, really, really into it. And there was one program that actually really changed the game for me, pun intended. And it was this program by this guy named Julian Blanc.
Oh God, I
Yeah.
know. Go ahead. Keep going.
So let me tell you why that was the most influential thing for me at the time, at least, because it taught me about state transference. It said like, hey, like if you feel good and you feel comfortable, the person you're talking to, whether it's a girl you're trying to pick up or a prospect that you're wanting to close, they will start to feel your state. They will start to feel your energy and they will feel good. But if you're not feeling good and you try to fake a state, they will smell it and it will not work, or at least not to the extent that it would have worked if you were actually in that state. Now, again, many people, when they study sales, when they study game, when they study those kinds of things, they're like, hey, what's the line I could say? What is the tactic that I could try? Right. But they don't approach it from the lens of who do I have to become? Right. And so I saw that early, Paul. I was like, this is calling me to become the next version of myself, the next iteration, one that
Correct.
is right, one that has more confidence, more conviction, and
Right.
not the fake confidence. And so started reading up more, started doing more of the actual practices, started getting my hands dirty with like actual infield, right? Both in dating and in sales, and then picking up on what works and what doesn't, and then slowly but surely iterating on that. That's how it happened.
But I get it. And not
Yeah.
but. I never say but. And not but. How did you map over? Because I did the same thing. How did you map over what you learned from pickup into sales? Because it's not quite a one-on-one thing. So there had to be a process where you had to map it over.
Yes. Okay, so pickup is a little bit more emotional, right? It's more like saying crazy random things that makes you feel good and self-amusement, and then the girl is like thinks it's funny and it's like an emotional roller coaster and so on and so forth, right? In sales, there's a very big emotional element, but you also have to be logical. You have to like logically lead the conversation and take them down a, like a straight line path if you want to look at it how Jordan Belfort talks about it. And so there the similarities are the fact that you have to feel good, right? You have to step into a higher level identity of yourself, right? You have to have abundance, you have to have outcome independence. You have to genuinely believe that you have the sauce and you are the prize,
I
not
love that.
pretend like you do, right? Those are the similarities, right? And then the difference is again, sales, there's a little bit more of a structure to follow. But again, man, even with game, right? Like there is kind of like a high level structure, right? Like you have to hook, right? You have to what was it? So it was the hook and then it was like the man, I forgot like the step by step because it's
Here
been
it is. You hook them, you cook them, and then you overlook them.
there you go. There you go. Exactly. Exactly.
So, where did you get? Who taught you that you could think outside the box and say, "No, the emperor has no clothes"? Who? Where did you pick that up?
You know what, man? That feels a little bit more natural to me than anything that I've like learned necessarily. I mean, even in like high school, middle school, etc., math problems, I would solve them differently than other people. You know what I mean? I wouldn't really. pay too much attention in class. I wouldn't really do too much of my homework. But when it came time for the exam, I would just like study earlier that day and like understand the concepts and be like, okay, let me try to like figure this out and kind of go against the grain and
Love it.
solve the problem.
Love it.
Yeah.
Your brain is wired differently. I believe this. Some people's
Yeah.
brains are just wired differently.
A little
So,
differently.
all right. So you've gotten into things like state control and emotional
Yeah.
regulation and looking at beliefs. All that said, when you've looked at the top salespeople, is there a commonality in what they believe across industries? If so, what are those core beliefs that enable them to do their job so well that let them stand out from everyone else?
Oh, well, first off, they definitely believe that they're the shit. Second off,
Okay.
definitely believe that they have the sauce, right? And third off, they believe that they're genuinely doing people a disservice and themselves a disservice if they don't full send the sales process.
I like that. It's bordering, it's not arrogant, but it's just close enough to that line to be super appealing.
Yeah. Listen, man, I'll tell you this. Don't get me wrong. There's some salespeople that have not really even done personal development necessarily, and maybe they haven't really like looked at themselves and confronted their own identity. And maybe it's all ego driven and it's all inflated and they still do well like that. That is until they cross paths with a certain time of their life, with a certain obstacle where they're going to have to look at it, and they might break themselves apart and be really shitty at sales for a couple of months or even a couple of years, or even
Yes,
out of sales entirely, right? Because they kind of have to rebuild themselves, and it happens at different phases of life for different people. For
I
some
know.
people, it doesn't even happen in the same life. It might happen in their next life, right? So there's definitely nuances to it. It's not just about like doing personal development and meditating and having an ayahuasca retreat to get there.
There's got to be past lives because there's no way I could have inherited this shitty stuff with women just from family. It had to come from millions of lifetimes being a real schmuck. I told you this is not a conventional show, did I not?
No, it's
So
good. Good.
you said at the intersection of sales psychology, call analysis. What is call analysis? I have some idea of what it is. It
Yeah.
uses AI to look at specific points in the call, or explain that.
Yeah, so look, people overblow the AI thing. They're like, yeah, like AI can now like analyze your call and do your sales for you and blah blah blah. Like, yes, but if you're really talking about operating on a high level, AI is not going to save your business, right? So here's what I do, man. I'll listen to the first 5, 10 minutes of a sales call and I'll be able to tell a business everything that's wrong with their sales system and with like a certain segment of their sales reps just from the first 5 to 10 minutes of listening to one call, right? Obviously, the more calls they give me, the more I could tell them that is wrong and the more fixes I have for them, right? AI comes in once the fixes have been implemented, it comes into holding the reps accountable and to from there being able to score the calls against the new rubric, the new process. That's what AI is great for.
Okay, hold on. You just made a pretty outrageous claim. That
Yeah.
within 5 to 10 minutes, you can
Yeah.
tell what's going on. I
5 to 10
find that I'm going to push back
push
and
back.
challenge and say, what's your evidence? How does that work? Tell me how that works. Because it sounds, I'm not doubting you,
Yeah.
but on behalf of my audience who's highly
Yeah.
skeptical and counter their, how can I put this? They like they're contrarian like I am.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be contrarian with you just for a minute and play devil's
Yeah.
advocate.
Of
Sounds like
course.
I smell I smell bullshit. So tell me how you do that.
Nice. It's funny you mentioned devil's advocacy, by the way. We'll get back to that. Remind me, this is something that I really do want to talk about as well. So I'll give you three live real-time examples. In the first 5 to 10 minutes of a call, you will be able to understand exactly how the salesperson regulates their state and whether they are trying to appease the prospect or they're trying to stay present with themselves in their own state, right? So as an example, you listen to a call and if you see the salesperson's face, because let's say it's a Zoom recording that you're watching, and you see the salesperson's face before the call starts, and they're all serious and they're like, all like in thought or whatever. And then the second that a prospect comes on, they're like, "Hey, how's it going? It's great to meet you." Like
I
that's
hate that.
that's fake. That's not congruent, right? So the first problem with your business's sales process is you don't train your reps to actually be congruent, right? And you could tell that in the first couple of seconds of the call, right? Then when the salesperson is setting the frame of the call and the agenda for how it's going to go, if they're up talking, right? Again, the salesperson does not have confidence. The salesperson is like seeking approval from the prospect instead of letting them know how it's done,
Yeah.
not in a pushy
Yeah.
sort of way, just objective. Okay, so that's the second thing that's wrong with your sales process. This all happened in the first 30 seconds of the call, by the way, right?
Love it.
And then the next 30 to 60 seconds, the salesperson will ask the first question, the prospect will give them the answer, and then instead of active listening, making sure that the salesperson understands what they're saying and basing their next question around that, they'll just go and they'll ask the next predetermined question on the script that has nothing to do with what the prospect says. Boom, there's the third problem with your sales system. And I was able to diagnose it not in the first 5 to 10 minutes, in the first 2 minutes.
I love it. This is so similar to what I teach my pickup and seduction students. And ladies and gentlemen, if you don't like that I do that, fuck you. It's my show.
Yeah.
So let's move on. This is great, Mitch. I'm really enjoying you. You're a fascinating dude.
Thank you.
All right. Coach and analyze hundreds of reps and help organizations improve close rates, ramp quality, offer fit, and coach clarity by redesigning the layer beneath the script. Love that. Absolutely love that. So, how do elite reps build trust, control, agent? Well, we've got that. Oh, why trying to clone one rep's surface language? We covered that actually. How to turn hidden top performer instincts into a usable coaching system for an entire team. We actually covered that too.
I'll give you three different topics that we can cover. It's your
Okay.
you
No,
tell me.
let's do it. I'm enjoying it. Let's
Sweet.
go.
Sweet. So in the beginning, I mentioned that the hidden behaviors of top reps come down to presence. We talked a lot about presence.
Yeah.
We briefly touched on thinking and judgment, but didn't really dive deep.
Yes, let's go there. What's surely judgment is a subset of thinking. If you're not thinking, then you can't judge. So
Yeah.
when you say judgment, you probably do you really mean discernment? You're not judging like that person's asshole.
No, no, no. You're definitely not judging like, oh, like this guy's weird, but it's more like you you are just you know what, discerning is a good word, but you're basically making a decision on where to take the conversation next and what the prospect actually needs, right? And it starts with listening, right? And then it involves thinking, and then it's like, okay, action, right? And so overall, you can kind of map that into thinking and judgment. But here's what I mean, man. So let's say that a prospect gives you an answer to your initial couple of questions about what's going on, what they're struggling with, what they're wanting, etc. If you're not already thinking about potential limiting beliefs that the prospect has and that are going to create objections at the end of the call, you're already losing the deal, right? And so that is actually where, dude, it's crazy how full circle comes. You said devil's advocacy. I preach using devil's advocacy on your sales calls to get the prospect to sell you on why they need what you're selling and not anything. Let me give you an example. You're selling
Yes.
an opportunity to break into a different job, a different career, or to break into a different business, right? And they're sharing something about, you know, their situation that's less than ideal and them seeing some things on the internet that are saying they could help. Devil's advocacy look like, well, okay, I mean, obviously, like we're on this call, so obviously, this sounded like something that you may want to look at. Why didn't you want to move forward with the other things that you saw? Right? Because if you don't ask that question, then you're risking at the end of the call, then be like, great, thanks for all the information. Let me go talk to the other guys that are teaching A,
Right.
C, or offering X, Y, and Z, and then I'll get back to you. So you can eliminate the projection early on in the call through devil's advocacy, but you need to think.
I do that on virtually every call. I ask why now, but before that, I say, why me? There's plenty of people out there. What drove you to talk with me today instead of talking to all these other people?
Yeah.
Love it. We are actually at the half-hour mark. So you have been a fantastic guest. My audience will want to stay in the conversation with you. Mitch, how do they do that?
Yeah. 2 ways. Number one, Instagram at Mitch Sapoff, Mitch Sapoff, Instagram. Okay. I'm going to be posting some more content coming up, right? So they'll be keeping in the loop with how I look at sales and life. And they could see my website. Pretty straightforward. Revsignals.io, REVSIGNALS.io.
All right. Stay with me for a green room chat, ladies and gentlemen. Do I bring great guests or what? So, Mitch, thank you for being on the show. And as I always end every episode, to the hostile alien armada hovering just outside of Earth's atmosphere in your cloaked spaceships, remember, eat the Canadians first. They taste better. All right. We'll catch you on the next episode.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Subconscious Selling Domination System. If you're an already successful sales leader, salesperson, or sales team leader, and you're already at the top 10 to 20% of your market, but somehow you've hit a plateau, the old techniques are just barely moving the needle, and you're ready to bust through, dominate your market, and even crush your competition, go to sellwithsuggestion.com. Grab your instant trust quick start training and your subconscious sales conversion vault, which are all part of the subconscious selling domination system. Just go to sellwithsuggestion.com. That's sellwithsuggestion.com.